welcome to the Sideboard here at the Star City Games Team Open in Philadelphia, part of the SCG Tour brought to you by Ultimate Garden Carnox Chairs. I'm Nick Miller alongside Ross Merriam from BCW, playing Pioneer this week, coming off a top 8-ish, fifth place finish last week in the team event where you played mono red.
Yep.
This week, however, a different beatdown strategy. What brought you to the Spirits?
I wasn't very happy with mono red last week. My record was quite poor. It was mainly carried by my teammates through that tournament. It just felt like the deck was too straightforward. Everybody knew, everybody had good tools against it, and I really just, basically needed them to stumble or me to have a really great draw to contend. And it was really mainly about the inverter matchup, where mono red is just running headfirst into them. They had the tools, and it ended up not being as good of a matchup as I expected. The Bant Spirits deck is quite good in that matchup. Just a little bit of disruption really helps. You don't need a lot, and you're pretty good against all their removal too. You can set up things with like Spell Queller where you already have Selfless Spirit or you have Rattle Chains up, and really get pretty far ahead. So this deck's just a little bit more robust, a little more powerful, while still retaining that aggressive element that I think is necessary, because the top of the format is these combo decks in Inverter and Lotus Field.
Right, we saw this deck break out at the PTs last weekend, and now everyone's targeting, the Lotus Breach deck and the Inverter deck, and Spell Queller is one of the best at doing both of those.
Yep.
I have to believe this is the reason we're playing this deck.
Yeah, Spell Queller is very, very well positioned right now. Really good in both matchups, and honestly, like the power of it is the reason I went with not only this deck but this specific build of it. I'm playing Reetzy's main deck. And basically you just have to decide which weaker creatures to trim.
Right.
A lot of people trim on Spectral Sailor. I'm playing the full 4 and fewer 2-drops. I have only 3 Rattle Chains, 3 Selfless Spirit, and that's mainly to just make sure I lower my curve and get ahead of them, so I can afford to leave up Spell Queller.
Right. You just want to make sure you have the creatures on board and go from there. You have Mausoleum Wonder as your other 1-drop. Then we have the Supreme Phantom and Empyrean Eagle. Those are the lords, so to speak.
It's all disruptive creatures and 8 lords.
Yeah.
Every other creature is a spell.
Interesting, though, I want to talk about Collected Company and the price to splash this card, because it's the only green card with the exception of a sideboard card. It requires a lot of shock lands, and were there other cards people were playing that maybe the blue-white version got to play, or was it just not powerful enough? You need this big 2-for-1.
Yeah, I think it's important to catch up if you do fall behind. So even though you do have extra shock lands against aggro, the Collected Companies help make up for it. It does make your deck, that much more powerful. It's really important in the mirror,
right?
Because you just want to flood the battlefield. So I think it's worth it. The price is actually pretty low, because Azorius Spirits already has a bad mana base. They have to play Port Town.
Sure.
And Port Town is a joke of a Magic card.
Yeah.
So splashing it and playing some Simic lands in your deck, and then the extra Temple Gardens. The only real price is playing those extra shock lands and the pain that you do to it. There's no real issue in consistency in terms of hitting your colors that they didn't already have with the Azorius deck's poor mana. So I do think the Collected Companies are necessary. The Azorius deck gets to play some Mutavaults in its mana base, but Mutavault has always been kind of awkward in Spirits, even though it gets pumped by Supreme Phantom, because it's a ground creature, and all of the rest of your creatures fly, so they usually have some blocker for it. You usually want to hold up mana too, so activating it gets a little awkward. So, as much as I like Mutavault, Collected Company is the better card in this deck.
Right. Brazen Bar, the only non-spirit we have here. There's just some added disruption, a little more clock.
Yeah, it's not great in the deck. It comes out a lot, but it's just a solid, this is a very good creature. You do want ways to take something off the battlefield, which you just don't really have in the main. Numbleghast Herald is your way to control the battlefield and set up combat against aggressive decks, but Brazen Bar can bounce it to Fairy if you fall behind against that, bounce some other Planeswalker. It can bounce a big blocker like a Niv-Mizzet or a Inverter if you just need to get through. So the petty theft side does come up, but you don't want a lot of them. So two's been fine.
So with moving to this deck to target kind of the combo decks, what is this deck weak to that you're looking to dodge now?
Because you have this combination of, aggression and disruption, you're not going to be super weak to anything. I'm a little scared of the aggro matchups. My sideboard is a little bit more geared towards them. I just have more removal spells than most people do. So I would generally say the aggro matchups, but you still have a good plan against them. I struggled against Spirits last week with Red, which was surprising, and is another reason I went off of it, because their curves of just Wanderer into Lords were hard.
Right.
Against the red decks, once you get 2 lords into play, all your creatures have really high toughness. So they usually have some like lava coils or fries in their sideboard. But if you have rattle chains or selfless spirit or anything like that, you can shut that down. I'm not super scared of anything. The aggro matchups are a little worries.
Right. So sideboard-wise, we have some Seal-Aways as removal along with the Dromoka's Command and Deputy of Detention. Those are your main interaction spells for creatures and such. Then we have Rest in Peace, Settle the Wreckage, Mystical Dispute, and Disdainful Stroke as your counter spells. What are your main matchups where you're looking to do a lot of countering? Is it the combo matchups or
combo
control?
matchups, the control matchups, the inverter matchup? Mystical Dispute is awesome in the mirror too. All your creatures are blue, and it's a big tempo game. So Dispute is just great. Normally, I'm the kind of person that really diversifies my answers. I've got 1 Settle here, 1 Dromoka's Command, 2s of other things, and I thought about doing that with my counter spells too. But Dispute is just so much better than all of the rest of them that you just play 4. The card is unreal. So yeah, all of those matchups, you end up bringing out a lot of creatures in those matchups. The Nebulous Heralds aren't good. The Borrowers aren't good in the control and combo matchups. So the disputes are you're a tempo deck. It's the cheapest good counter spell. It's so good.
Damping Sphere is the other card. I assume this is good for the Breach deck. Anything else there?
No, really just there for Breach. I was kind of scared about it. Corey Baumeister has been going on about how broken the deck is in our team chat. So I was initially going to play through Rest in Peace to both respect Breach a little bit more and respect Sultai Delirium. But the Delirium matchup is pretty good. Your Mystical Disputes are actually good in that matchup too, because 3 mana Mana Leak is fine. And stopping Uro is your main priority, so 1 mana stop Uro is good. So I didn't think I needed the 3rd Rest in Peace against them, and Damping Sphere is significantly better than Rest in Peace against the Lotus Field deck, because they're already built to dodge Graveyard Hate or get around it by just playing that ramp plan. If you Damping Sphere them and their Lotus Field taps for colorless, then they can't really do their Graveyard plan anyway. They need Lotus Field for that, and they can't do the ramp plan. So Damping Sphere is just great against them.
Wrapping up here, how do you feel about Pioneer at the moment? Are you worried about the 2 kind of combo decks right now at the top of the field, or do you think the format's still pretty good?
I'm worried about Breach. I'm not as worried about Inverter. I think that deck's fine, and we're learning to target it. So Breach is the real worry. Outside of that, the format looks great. We've got mid-range decks in Sultai Delirium. We've got this kind of cool tempo aggro deck. We've got a couple low-to-the-ground aggro decks. Azorius Control is still around if you really want to be playing a control deck. I know Shaheen's playing Esper and Phoenix, which I have no idea how.
Was playing.
Is he out of the tournament?
No daggers, but
Yeah. So format looks diverse. The gameplay is really fun, which I think is sort of often an overlooked element of a healthy metagame. You could have a diverse format. If the games aren't fun, then it doesn't matter. So I think it hits both notes. I think Pioneer is easily the best of the 3 formats, and the other 2 aren't bad. Modern's a little stressed by Amulet. Standard looks solid. We got a nice, it's a well-defined top tier, but a good variety there, good games in the standard format. So all 3 are in good shape right now, but Pioneer is still better than the rest of them.
All right, you're 3-0 so far. Aaron Barich, Becky Adelman, your teammates.
Yep.
All right, we'll see how you do the rest of the way. Thanks for joining me here in the sideboard as usual,
Ross.
Stay tuned to Star City Games all weekend long for the action here in Philadelphia.